Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today I want to talk about RJ Barrett and Jonathan Kuminga. The Atlanta Hawks are entering into a sweet spot where I think the roster that they've put together is probably going to allow them to compete with the best, not just of the East, but of the league. I think Trae Young is that level of transcendent superstar that has the ability to raise the floor of a lot of maybe less talented guys. Now, I'm not saying Jalen Johnson's not talented or Reese Shea or Daniels, but I'm saying that they're role players. And Jalen Johnson, I think at best is like Aaron Gordon. All that's to say is with someone like Trae Young, all of a sudden their floor gets raised. If you think about Jason Kidd with the New Jersey Nets, Kenyon Martin, Kerry Kittles, RJ or Richard Jefferson, he's able to raise the floor of guys and compete at a high level. Now, J Kidd played defense, but I digress. Trae Young is going to do that for this roster. But I think that there's something else that they need to do, which is get that perimeter score that allows Trae Young to breathe, to not have to carry the whole thing, and to be able to defer to someone who he legitimately respects should be deferred to. The reality is Jalen Johnson is really talented. He's gotten hurt, and he hasn't necessarily proven that he's someone that he can trust and defer to in the most competitive of moments. Example, the playoffs. And at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily say that Dyson Daniels is. Reese Shea is. Even Porzingis. And so it still comes back to this offensively ball dominant Trae Young style of play because they need another player whom he could defer to. Who's going to be that second option? Who's going to be the Joe Johnson, the Steve Nash, and Amari Stoudemire? And I got a couple of options for us. Now, the first one, RJ Barrett. I talked about him yesterday. I think he's a great asset to try to acquire because I don't think it'll take much for the Atlanta Hawks to get him. The reality is the Toronto Raptors are in somewhat of a numbers crunch, not having made the playoffs the past couple of seasons and having one of the more expensive rosters in the league. I think the new kind of direction that the Raptors are going in is they're going to try to reset without resetting, meaning get under the cap. Let's continue to develop these young guys. Let's see what we got in Brandon Ingram. But we're not necessarily going to invest as if we believe that we're going to win a championship. And I'm not necessarily mad at that. I love Jacoby Walter. I like Jamal Sheed. I like Quickly still. I like Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, even though there's some overlap there. Jakob Proto. This team is talented. It's deep. Grady Dick, guys like that, just have a lot of talent, and they need minutes. And RJ Barrett may find himself in that uneasy spot of having too much overlap with more talented players or younger players who are far cheaper and probably worth more investing in at this point for the Raptors. Now, what does that mean for the Atlanta Hawks? Now, the Atlanta Hawks, they have a lot of young assets too. Not just Reese Shea, but they also have guys like Jurisic. They got Toppin. They got Muhammad Gay, Vic Krejci, Asa Newell. And then they also have last year's number one pick, Zachary Reese. Now, I don't necessarily think RJ Barrett is worth Reese, but I would say that this is a prime window for the Atlanta Hawks. And considering that Trae Young is 26 years old, I believe he turns 27. Let me look it up real quick. Turns 27. Birthday. Yeah, he turns 27 next month. So Trae Young is also in the prime of his career. He's got maybe, I would say, 5 years to play at this peak because I don't think his game is necessarily one that is going to age badly. What's good, Sandro? And all I have to say is that this is the moment for the Atlanta Hawks to go ahead and go for it, to dive in, to take a chance. But the right chance is what's key, We get to some of these comments because this is an interactive live. We talk about the Hawks, but my Nuggets. Oh, man. I'm going to be honest with you, man. The Nuggets are pretty cut and dry at this point. I think they're pretty much Summed up, they have the roster, they have the squad, they got the superstar, they have a team that's competing for a championship. I'm not sure what more there is to talk about with the Nuggets. They are what they are. It's like talking about OKC. What don't we know about them? You've seen it. All right. But back to the Hawks and this impending move that I think that they are going to make this year. I think with the Atlanta Hawks, I like RJ Barrett. But the thing that I'm curious about is, does he raise their ceiling into contention? And here's the thing that I would say. When I compare RJ Barrett and Jonathan Kuminga, I see RJ Barrett as having a higher floor. He's going to knock down shots. He's going to be solid on defense. He's going to be able to play make and shot create. But he has a cap. I don't know if he can become Paul Pierce. And when I say Paul Pierce, I'm talking about someone whose confidence allowed him to play at a superstar level. There were moments that Paul Pierce had that he peaked, and we saw someone who could be an NBA Finals MVP. Can RJ Barrett peak and become that? I don't know. But let me put a pause in him and go to Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga, of the two, has the far higher ceiling. And I think that that's evident. We saw that Jonathan Kuminga had the type of ability that allowed him to attack and dominate an absolutely dominant defense in the Houston Rockets. Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, elite defenders, elite wing defenders, couldn't do anything with him. And this was a Jonathan Kuminga that was having no plays drawn for him. His team was not setting up. They just stuck him in a corner, forgot about him, and just swung him the ball whenever. In fact, probably the only person that was looking for him was Jimmy Butler. But everyone else was like, whatever. And yet he still had a dominant playoff performance. Pierce had too much confidence. He did. But it's to say that his floor at the same time is also lower than RJ Barrett. He hasn't necessarily proven that he can be a part of winning. And when I say a part of winning, I mean a leader for a team that's winning. RJ Barrett has been with the Knicks, been a part of that team's resurgence. He's been a consummate professional, has been someone who's shown a pretty good IQ in terms of being able to play around other stars like Julius Randle, like Jalen Brunson, right? He's been able to be a part of winning there just a couple of seasons ago, getting into the playoffs multiple years in a row. And so when I look at the two, one, I don't think either should cost the Atlanta Hawks a lot, which is essential. Because if you're trying to get into a championship window, you're not trying to leverage or let go of assets that can allow you to really take that jump or make that leap. And yet, you have to be careful. One, Jonathan Kuminga is going to be due more money in the next couple of years. Whether you pay him this year or next year, there's a sign and trade. He's going to get cashed out. Now, best case scenario, I think, for the Atlanta Hawks is that they get Jonathan Kuminga, but it's a sign and trade. Golden State Warriors sign him for 20 plus million for hopefully 4 to 5 years. Maybe 3 to 4 years, but have a team option on the back end. All right. Maybe a flattened out salary that's 20 something million for 4 straight years and it doesn't continue to ascend. Right. These are the different things that the Hawks should be looking at. But it's to say that that type of a talent you are taking a risk on, because how does he fit? How does he fit? You don't know. And you don't necessarily have a lot of film to be able to really tell how you're going to be able to fit him in with the Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Porzingis. But I will say this, that there are some talents that just transcend the situation. With the Golden State Warriors, it really didn't matter who was out there with him. He was going to be able to do what he does, which is something that I have applauded Jonathan Kuminga since he was with the G League Ignite with Jalen Green. That I saw a talent that had the ability to transcend at the highest level. I feel like you can drop him in an NBA Finals and he will do exactly what he does since day one. Get downhill, get to the rim, knock down shots, create his own shot, get to the mid range, post up, finish on the interior, put a lot of pressure on defenses, and get out in transition. He'll rebound enough and he'll defend enough. Now, will he move well without the ball, do all these extra things? Who knows? I don't know. But the fact that he can do those things at an NBA Finals level, we haven't seen it, but I believe it. The fact that he has that type of talent might be worth the swing for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, if they decide to swing elsewhere and go after an RJ Barrett, I'm not mad at that either. They can get in a player who can fill a need, less risk, also less reward, but can still potentially be a part of getting them back to an opportunity to get into those finals. But as always, I want to know what you all think. What do you think that the Atlanta Hawks should do? Should they go after RJ Barrett? Higher floor, lower ceiling, but could still be an extremely valuable piece to be able to maybe fill out that big three that they need to be able to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals and potentially an NBA Finals berth? Or do you swing for the fences with a Jonathan Kuminga, who could potentially be someone that allows you to get all the way to the mountaintop? Because if I'm honest, Jonathan Kuminga would probably be the most exciting player that they've had in Atlanta probably since Dominique Wilkins. Now, let me just throw that out there. I want to get to some of these comments, and then we're going to hop off for this morning. Let me see. With how the East is going, I think they have an actual chance at making the conference finals. What you think? Do you think that they have a chance of making the conference finals? I do. I think that Trae Young is the New York Knicks kryptonite. I don't think they have an answer for him. His ability to control the game, I think, always puts the Knicks in a precarious position. I think Mike Brown, their new head coach, will have them ready and prepared for that type of a battle. But I think if a Trae Young has an RJ Barrett or a Jonathan Kuminga, I think they become a better team. And wouldn't that be some sweet vengeance for RJ Barrett to go to the Hawks? And then the Hawks face the Knicks in the playoffs, in the semifinals, or the conference finals and beat them to advance in the playoffs. That would be some shit. We get some of these other questions before we hop off. Let me see. I think RJ can be a decent number two. If he can get his 3-point percentage up, he's not a number one. He doesn't have the on ball juice. That's very true. Kuminga is just too soon to tell. I need to see him out from under the Warriors. I agree. I don't know about Kuminga. The talent is tempting, but spacing with Dyson Daniels would be rough. I agree with that as well. Kuminga is a good one-on-one defender, but he is not a good team defender, which is why Kerr does not play him, which is mostly Kerr's fault because Kerr does not let Kuminga learn from his mistakes. These are all great points. Um, wow, Kuminga goes to the Hawks and beats the Warriors in the finals. Who knows? Who knows? I will say that these are all great points. I definitely look forward to talking more about them in the comment section after we post the video. But I'll say this. Jonathan Kuminga, to me, has enough talent around him with the Atlanta Hawks to cover where he may lack. Whether it's team defense, whether it's off-ball movement, whether it's facilitation or playmaking for others. I think Jalen Johnson has really, really rounded out skills, whether it's ball handling, facilitation, playmaking. He could run a little bit of your offense. Dyson Daniels as well, along with Trae Young. I think the ball handling and the passing ability of that trio allows Kuminga to go in there and just do what he does. Be a bucket. Put pressure on the defense. With that downhill force, I think he opens up more shooting for guys like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis, and Trae Young. And when you have someone who can have that much gravity that I believe he would have, I think that the three-point shooting may not necessarily peak with him, but I think it increases with everyone else. The real question would be, can the coach of the Hawks maximize his talent and ability? Now, I think RJ Barrett fits in seamlessly, but Jonathan Kuminga could be a real game changer. He could be a star next to their superstar, potentially a superstar next to a superstar. And Trae Young, Kuminga, and Johnson, that could be a big three that can run through the East. I'm just saying. But as always, I want to know what you all think. Get at me in the comment section after I post this. Hope y'all have an amazing day. Get out there in the sunshine. Vitamin D releases endorphins, helps your body to feel at its best. And when you're at your best, your world is at its best. So take care. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace.